Just like the world play. Very unlikely. Yeah, that's about what it's like.
You know, so what are
I know. Any other chance? You forget how many out there's one out. Yeah. Right. That's true.
You're ruining people's diets. If I were a betting man, I'm going to bet that. Oh, I passed those chairs because I thought this was usually sings. I can track you down.
This is what you wanted copies of, just with the different names on it. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. The hour of 7 p.m. having arrived and passed. Apologies for our tardiness. I call to order this legislative meeting for the Woodland Hills School Board for the month of June 2019. Ms. Pugh, will you call the roll?
Mr. David Graves.
Present.
Ms. Sharday Seligson. Present. Mr. Jeff Hanchett.
Here.
Ms. Terry Lawson. Here. Ms. Rhonda Curry. Here. Dr. Jeff Hildebrand. Ms. Paige Strasbaugh. Here. Mr. Mike Belmont.
Here.
Ms. Jamie Glasser.
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence as we remember those that we've lost. Thank you. The board met in executive session on June 14th and this evening prior to the meeting to discuss legal, personnel, and security matters. Is there a motion to accept the agenda and legislative meeting minutes for the month of May?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions, additions, edits to the minutes? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Harris, is there any announcement?
Okay, there's two announcements tonight. Our school picnic Kennywood Day is coming up Tuesday, June 25th. You could purchase discounted tickets up until Monday, between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. here at the admin office. Tickets are $28. The district is closed that day, so come out, join us at Kennywood for our annual picnic. Also, pre-K counts, we still have opening seats at Turtle Creek and Wilkins. That's the pre-K counts program, ages 3 to 4. As long as your child's birthday is by September 1st, they are eligible. There are household income requirements, so please contact the district for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We also have a note in our announcement sections that today is Juneteenth. And for those of you who I think most of us know that Juneteenth is the Independence Day or Freedom Day, and an American holiday that commemorates June 19th, 1865, which was the announcement of the abolition of slavery in the U.S. state of Texas and the emancipation of enslaved African Americans throughout the former Confederate states. So that is noted on our agenda as well. Any other announcements? Okay. Seeing none, I don't believe we have student speakers this evening. Okay. And I don't believe we have any presentations tonight. So that will move us to registered speakers. Okay. Lena Aqualine. Good evening. The board welcomes and invites public comment, and thank you for being here tonight. Speakers have 2 minutes and are asked to give their name and address before speaking. Questions posed will not be answered at this time, but we'll happily address those following the meeting. Thank you for being here.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Lena Aqualine. I live at 1306 Lancaster Avenue in Swissvale. I am a Swissvale resident, taxpayer, and the mother of 3 grade school-aged children. I am asking you to vote no on your proposed 3% millage increase. I am a proponent and product of a Pennsylvania public education. I fully support a unionized educator workforce, and I don't mind paying taxes when the benefits are commensurate. I wish we felt that we could send our kids to our assigned school of Edgewood, but we don't. Our family has had far more negative than positive interactions with Woodland Hills School District in the 6 years we have lived in Swissvale. We have experienced apathy, incompetence, dishonesty, and unresponsiveness with both the schools and the administration regarding enrollment, busing, facilities, and more. There was never an apology, acknowledgement, or ownership in any of these instances. Everyone, every time, has passed the buck and blamed someone or something else. And here we find ourselves again with a budget deficit, and the district yet again not apologizing, not acknowledging its failures, and not taking ownership. You pass the buck to charter schools, busing, enrollment decline, pension obligations, the state. All of these are long-standing financial obligations that are trackable, predictable, and forecastable, often known years in advance. The biggest question you need to ask is, why are parents choosing to send their children elsewhere? We send our kids elsewhere because it's the better choice for our family. Empirically, anecdotally, and experientially, they are getting a stronger, academically proven, and well-rounded education with greater opportunities than they would have here. And most importantly, they are safer. You plan to furlough 70 staffers, reintegrate rank and promise with less support staff, and execute yet another realignment. These are all questionable choices at the financial gain to the district of $6.5 million. The district funds were not managed in a fiscally responsible way before the last millage increase in 2016, and they have not been since. What are you going to do with another $1.4 million taxed to the detriment of our district's low-income and senior population? In terms of recognizing your public relations effort, I'd like to note 2 last things. Right-sizing is not a thing. It's called downsizing. And simply renaming a school as a STEM academy does not a STEM academy make. I would like to know in specific terms how the instructional program and curriculum will change besides the grade configuration of the schools. I will not vote in the next election for any member who votes for this increase, and I will strongly encourage my community to do the same. To quote the Penn Hill School Board President, there is no way in the world that we can tax ourselves out of this mess. We can't do it here either. So please vote no. I thank you for your attention and consideration.
Thank you. Marion Penn.
Hello. I didn't know I had 2 minutes, so I'm going to cut what I was going to say short. I am speaking to you tonight for 3 reasons. The interest of this school district, to outline my concerns, and to offer suggestions for improvement. I was born in Rankin. I grew up with a single mother and all women supporting me. But what was in our home always was the education is necessary factor. I'll call it that, for a lack of a better term. I grew up always having to go to school. The report by Dr. Livingston last week to me was devastating. 0% proficient, 0% advanced. That means 100% less than proficient. 36% not attending school on a regular basis. To me, that seems like a huge cultural shift in our homes. And I don't know how you as school board members can actually fix that other than getting yourselves into the community and getting churches and people with groups that are willing to volunteer their time to help these kids get to school. Allowing $300,000 plus for iPads is not going to help students who can't get themselves into school. I also wanted to say that the lack of communication in the school board is really poor. I did not know until I attended the meeting last week, and I have to say full disclosure here, I've known Jamie Glasser's parents since we were in high school. I graduated from Churchill High School. So she gave me this last week. I couldn't read what was being projected on the screen when I was here last week. To learn that your budget is $4.5 million in the deficit, you have created over $6 million in budget cuts, and you are giving us a millage increase, and you're still not going to meet your budget. There were no projected budgets, and I have worked in the world of budgets, and every budget I've ever worked with has projections. So how are you going to bring this budget down? I have a suggestion. The president has created these opportunity zones, which we are surrounded by. All of our communities have opportunity zones. There was a mention about 400 different buildings that are not being, they're not being occupied, so we're not collecting a revenue for those. I suggest you find out about these opportunity zones and try and get some businesses to come into here and help us, sell these buildings. It's just really sad to see a community that I grew up in come so far down. It really is. And the budget that's in here does not give me promise for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Busy.
Hello, my name is Barbara Bisdee, and I've lived in Edgewood for the past 11 years with my husband Jeff. We live at 111 Beach Street. I'm here tonight to oppose the tax increase presented by the Woodland Hills Superintendent, Mr. James Harris, and the Woodland Hills School Board. I spoke with James Harris. Mr. Harris, would you please raise your hand so we can all know who you are in the back? Thank you. We spoke on Monday, June 11th. And James informed me that the reason for the tax increase was because of the cost related to the charter schools and the transportation associated with them. I stated my position as a taxpayer, and he stated to me that we all need to consider the tax rate when we buy homes. He was eager to share with me that he'd be closing on his new home that afternoon in Turtle Creek. And he was quick to remind me again that we all need to consider school taxes when we buy our homes. The difference in the school tax rate from Swissvale, as I understand it, to Turtle Creek is a difference of 15.88 down to 4.8, which is quite a difference. So should we all move out? Is that the answer? That's not my answer. I'm not moving. I reminded him we already pay a very disproportionate amount of the taxes in the district, and we always have to begin with. We accepted that, but things have got astronomically high in the past few years. So whether you oppose or agree with charter schools, the problem remains the same. There just isn't sufficient funding. So why is it, you ask, that Woodland Hills cannot live within their means and their budget? They choose to purchase things such as state-of-the-art scoreboards and other athletic items. So, I ask you as taxpayers, is this a school district that worries or modifies their budget when they run out of money? Or is it a school district that continues to expect us, as homeowners and taxpayers, to bear that debt? So, you may ask, why are we as property owners responsible for all these taxes related to the school district? I did a little bit of research, and in 2011, then Governor Corbett decided to stop the state funding, which used to bridge the gap between the money that public schools put out to support the charter schools and the amount that they could take on themselves for their own overhead. So that's one very large reason that we are faced with this problem. So I ask you, our school board that works for us and with us, to turn to your state legislators and ask them to promote funding here in the public schools. And I also ask you to balance your budget and focus more on academics and less on athletics. One last thing. Getting back to Mr. Harris and Jamie Glasser, who we exchanged emails, I would like to know what you are doing to try and reduce the burden on taxpayers. Lastly, I've left several messages myself for Senator Costa, and he's not returned any of my calls. To that, I assume he doesn't care. So shame on him. But we can't allow him to get away with that avoidance either. So I want to ask the state, if I were able to speak to him, to try and come up with some kind of funding that might help as well, and to help bear the burden so that it is not all on the taxpayers. I thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you. Wendy Mate.
My name is Wendy Mate, and I live at 27 Churchill Road, and I grew up in Forest Hills. I went to Woodside Elementary School. I went to Forest Hills Junior High School, and I graduated from Churchill Area High School. I am asking the board to vote no on this budget. I was here at the meeting when the superintendent candidates spoke and told us about themselves and their past and what they were planning for the school. At that time, I asked Mr. Harris about his then school district, specifically regarding enrollment numbers and budget. He said there were 3,700 students and a budget of $67 million. So I thought it was pretty hopeful that he was coming from a district that was educating more students for tens of millions of dollars less. So when I watched his presentation for the Woodland Hills School District and saw that there was a focus on cutting costs, I was not only hopeful, but I was impressed. So when I learned that the proposed budget was in excess of $100 million, I was in shock. Enrollment has been on a steep decline, so how do costs not follow that? Instead, they are in an inverse proportion, and that is an indication that something is very wrong. For 38 years, this district has been hearing the same thing every time a tax increase is proposed. It has become like watching a shell game. Kids are shuffled around, schools are renamed, new facilities are built, schools are closed, schools are open, the latest and greatest of educational plans are implemented, and team spirit is reignited. But After 38 years of every conceivable variation on that theme, we are still at the bottom of the state rankings and still have the majority of students performing well below accepted proficiency standards. Everything has a tipping point. This district is well past that. At one of this year's board meetings, a board member expressed concern that certain people did not know the district well and might not therefore understand all of the complexities of the district. I am asking the board to have the same concern for the boroughs. My borough can barely afford to fix potholes, let alone repave the streets. My borough has no businesses. The residents pay for everything, and there are many seniors who can simply no longer afford to do that. The last time I looked, there were 11 foreclosures in a borough where that was once unheard of. An eroding tax base means less taxes for the school district. What happens when it completely falls out? Because project out 10 years, 5 years even. Where are we going? The boroughs need taxes, the schools need taxes, and nobody seems to be really focusing on maybe we don't need 2 football fields. Maybe 1 football field is enough. I agree with the state-of-the-art video scoreboard. I mean, why? There's plenty of information on the school website about the musicals and the sports, but where's the focus on academics? I mean, to spend $100 million and not have kids that are reading and doing math at proficiency levels that are way below state standards is pretty unacceptable. So, really, I'm here for my borough, and I'm here for the seniors who live across the street from me who can't even maintain their house anymore. So, thank you very much, and please vote no.
Dornica Reed.
Dornica Reed, 134 Leniki Street, Wilkins Township. I'd first like to discuss the proposed tax increase. I'm opposed to an increase mostly because over the past few years that I've been attending these meetings, there have always been inconsistencies in the reporting of the budget. One major example of this is the line items for the Churchill and Rankin resource officers, and also programs like the implicit bias program and community and schools in the district. In the current budget, the proposal shows a deduction of $98,000 for the removal of one of the Churchill police officers. That would mean the remaining officer would make only $23,000. During the last year's budget meeting, we were told by the business manager that the cost of removing one officer would not change because of an agreement between Churchill Borough and the district. And that didn't make sense to me at the time, and it is inconsistent with what we're seeing now. The budget shows a deduction of $60,000 now for the removal of the Rankin police officer. This is new because that line item is usually $40,000, and it has been since Alan Johnson left. We were told that Alan Johnson was behind some of the numbers in the current budget, but that also doesn't make any sense because he's been gone for a year now. The board has a finance committee. Aren't they supposed to oversee finances? It doesn't appear to be doing its job. It is irresponsible for the board to pass this budget when the numbers never add up, especially when these changes will greatly impact so many lives. The district needs a thorough audit before increasing taxes and cutting jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn Scott.
Good evening. I'm Marilyn Scott. I live at 143 West Swissvale Avenue in Edgewood. As many of you know, I'm also a school board candidate running to represent Region 2. In addition to that, I'm a parent in the district and a graduate of Woodland Hills High School class of 1998. In speaking with my constituents, I've gotten a lot of feedback, especially about these proposed budgets and the tax increase. So I'm here not only representing my own viewpoints, but those of the constituents as well. Folks I've spoken to are hesitant to throw their support behind a tax increase just 2 months after they were persuaded to throw their support behind a realignment of the schools. They understandably feel like they've been given the bait and switch. We have an opportunity here with these new faces at the table, as well as new leadership at the helm, to earn the trust of our taxpayers by being transparent, upfront, and honest with them about the way their money, our money, is being spent. If we truly want to unify the district across all 12 neighborhoods, we have to start with honesty and mutual respect. I understand the need for a realistic budget and that the deadline is rapidly approaching, and I urge you all to strongly consider the implications passing this budget will have on the taxpayers across the district. Consider those already living below the poverty line, the elderly who live on fixed incomes, and the families who have lost faith in the empty promises made by your predecessors during the last increase just a few years ago. Be mindful of what you are asking of local residents and taxpayers. You are expecting them to blindly trust that the big picture plans you have will actually come to fruition when that hasn't been demonstrated in the past, and you don't have any hard evidence to support your claims. You sold them on the realignment under the guise of avoiding additional layoffs and tax increases, and then just a few months later proposed additional layoffs and furloughs as well as this tax increase. People are upset. The morale is low. Be thoughtful in the choices that you make here tonight. These are people's lives. They're our homes and our children's futures. These are teachers who have demonstrated dedication to us and our children. Please don't be reckless with us. We are your community. Thank you.
Robert Culbertson.
Hi, my name is R.F. Culbertson, Churchill Road. My question is simple. Are you an educational institution or are you an athletic one? I'm looking at a budget, and when I look at all the numbers I could cut very easily, I said to myself, gee, what if we just closed the Wolverina? What if we played all away games? And what if we canceled everything we just bought in the past year for athletics? And suddenly we balanced the budget. And I went, this is interesting. Because then I took a step back and I said, on a larger scale, what are we doing? If there were 100 people in this room, 6 of them, 6, would be able to do math at grade level if we were seniors. Your numbers, not mine. And I said to myself, for these 6 people, the other 94 of them, myself included in the 94, our only hope is whether we can say, do you want fries with that for the rest of my life? And I go, wow, this isn't an educational institution anymore. I get it. Okay, it's an athletic one. Then why are we treating it as an educational one? Because for 34 years that I've been on Churchill Road, you've been telling me that this is going to turn around. And it hasn't. Every year enrollment goes down. Every year your spending goes up. I can't figure it out. If you were a business, you'd be shut down by now. So I said, honestly, to quote Jon Stewart, this room should be reversed. You should be back here. We should be up there. You should be apologizing for getting 6 out of 100 on an exam. You should be, and we should be telling you how much we're willing to pay to attend whatever your organization is, athletic or educational. Because none of the foundations downtown, although they tell me they have millions of dollars, they also tell me they cannot in due conscience give it to any of your students because they cannot in due conscience believe they're going to attend 2 years worth of college. And I'm shocked. Lastly, I would think you would be coming to us begging for our business, not demanding and rationalizing your tax increase. Thank you.
That is the last of the registered speakers. Okay, so we'll move into board matters. 2.1.
Okay, Board Matters 2.1. First reading of revised policy 201, admission of beginners.
As this is a first reading, there's no vote on it this evening. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, 2.2.
2.2, first reading of policy 203, immunizations and communicable diseases and the administrative regulations 203.
Again, this is a first reading. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, 2.3.
2.3, second reading of policy 823, naloxone.
Again, second reading, we'll vote on this next month. Any questions on the naloxone policy? Okay, seeing none.
2.4, second reading of policy 150, Title I comparability.
Any questions on Title I? Okay. Seeing none. 2.5.
2.5, second reading of policy 918, Title I, Parent and Family Engagement.
Any questions on that one? Okay. Seeing none. 2.6.
2.6, second reading of policy 609, Investment of District Funds.
Any questions? Okay. Seeing none. 2.7.
2.7, we seek the acceptance of the Let's Move Pittsburgh grant in the amount of $1,000 for Wilkins Elementary School.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion on the grant? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 2.8.
2.8, we seek the acceptance of the Let's Move Pittsburgh grant in the amount of $1,000 for Edgewood Primary School.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions on this grant? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 2.9.
2.9, we seek approval of the contract of Kate Granneman Galucio for management services at the Carnegie 3 Library of Swissville, effective July 1, 2019, at a cost of $32,500 from the General Fund 10.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Curry, second by Mrs. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Dr. Coluccio. Thank you for being here. That will move us to Section 3, Assistant Superintendent 3.1.
3.1, we seek approval to accept the MOA from Community College of Allegheny County for dual enrollment with the Woodland Hills School.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Ms. Curry. Any questions or discussion on the MOA?
Can we have a brief description so people know exactly what that
Sure, Dr.
entails,
Penman.
the contract? Can we have a brief discussion exactly what this partnership with CCAC entails and why it's beneficial for us?
Absolutely. So this is a partnership between CCAC and starting for this 2019-20 school year, and where it will bring college classes on the high school campus. Currently, we were offering 2 classes, an English writing course and a psychology course. However, we have 90 students that signed up for the psychology course, and we didn't get as many for the English course. The class will be taught by our Woodland Hills teachers, and there have been a collaboration between CCAC and the teachers at the high school concerning the syllabus, and information was sent to parents explaining the class and the credits, and and we hope to increase and build partnerships with more colleges and universities going forward. However, this is a start, and there are several school districts that have college classes on campus. The students won't have to leave the campus to go, but they'll get college credit. But they don't have to sign up for college credit to take the class. They can still take the class.
Okay.
Question, Dr. Penman, sorry. The tuition, the cost of the credits is paid for by the parents, correct?
Yes, that
family.
And you should have the attachment on there. CCAC came up and spoke to the students, as well as gave them information to take home to the parents, which explained all that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. Moves us to 3.2.
3.2, we seek approval to accept the school improvement plan for the Woodland Hills Junior Senior High School.
Would like to make a motion to table this motion.
Is there a second to the motion to table?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Pugh will take a voice vote on that one. By way of explanation, the plans were presented last week with a deadline of June 30th. The district has received an extension of that deadline so that we can address a couple of concerns that were raised, concerns and questions that we wanted to flesh out in the plans for the high school. So that's the explanation of what's happening on this. Any questions on that before we go on? Okay, sorry. Take the vote.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. So that motion is tabled. Then was it to 3.3.
3.3, we seek approval to accept the school improvement plan for Wilkins Primary.
Motion to table this item as well.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Seligson to table, second by Mr. Belmont. Same situation with this plan. We have an extension for this one as well. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. Okay, that'll move us to 3.4.
3.4, we seek permission to adopt the Assistant Superintendent's Building Principal and Assistant Principal Staffing Plan for the 2019-2020 school year, pending approval of the 2019-2020 budget.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions? I have a question, actually.
Yeah, I have
There's
a
a
question
name on
too.
here.
Yeah, Dr. Penniman,
Yeah.
we'll need to revise this in light of,
The changes?
yes.
I thought that it was done because I gave the change update this week, so I'm not sure why it's not on.
There was, because of some personnel situations that have transpired in the last couple of days.
Yesterday, okay, got it.
So we'll need,
Okay, yeah.
do you want us to amend this now?
We can.
How would you like us to proceed?
We can amend it now because it involves one, there should only be one person missing on it, correct?
One, I believe that it has to be missed, and one. Can we discuss this with the names?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't
They're
think...
on the tab.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ms. Weiser has resigned. We'll be accepting that resignation shortly, and Mr. Smith will be staying with us. So is the plan to replace Ms. Weiser with Mr. Smith at the intermediate building?
So, no, we probably, Mr.
Okay.
Smith, yeah, we probably should hold off so we can talk.
So do you want us to table this as well?
Yes, that, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any further questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Lawson?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Ellickson?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. Okay. That moves us to Section 4, Curriculum 4.1.
4.1, we seek approval to surplus the attached secondary textbooks stored at the high school as listed.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Seligson, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That will move us to Section 5, Special Education, 5.1.
5.1, request approval of the Educational Services Agreement with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3 for the 2019-2020 school year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 5.2.
5.2, approval to ratify tuition agreement with Addit Related Service with News Story from May 2nd, 2019 to June 6, 2019. The total cost is $2,850 for Addit Related Service.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 5.3.
5.3, approval for a letter of agreement with the day school at the Children's Institute for the 2019-2020 school year. The total annual cost is $65,100.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Curry, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion?
I have a question. For this contract, this isn't specifying for any particular student right now, right? This is just hold an agreement moving forward for any children we would have to send.
Ms. Johnson?
That's for a particular student.
Oh, it is? Okay.
On in the last exec section.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just didn't scroll down. I'm sorry.
Seeing no further questions, we'll take the vote, please. Motion carries unanimously. That moves to Section 6, People Personnel. 6.1.
6.1, CRNP contract for physicians-based service for the 2019-2020 school year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 6.2.
6.2, we seek approval to accept the 2019-2020 Waterfront Learning Services contract for secondary online educational services.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 6.3.
6.3, we seek approval to accept the school-based asthma screening program letter of agreement with Duquesne University for the 2019-2020 school year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to section...
Jamie?
I'm sorry?
Excuse me. I'd like to back up, if we could, to 6.2 just for a brief explanation for the sake of the people here to understand what that's about. Ms. Golden, would you mind coming up on 6.2 and just giving a brief explanation to our residents and attendants as to what that program entails? That this is significant.
The Waterfront Learning provides our students with classes, and those students are our students that are with the Woodland Hills Online Academy, as well as our students who may need some form of credit recovery. They're able to take classes through this agreement. Question?
And general cost of that, do you?
The cost for the program was $20,000, and that includes up to 500 licenses for students to take advantage of. And that agreement will take us through July 30, whatever the last day of July is for 2020. So they're able to utilize that during the school year, as well as if our students need to take advantage of credit recovery, they're allowed to do that over the summer.
Okay, and if a student were to go to an online charter academy or a charter school, there are 15 in the state of Pennsylvania, can you please tell the room what the cost of sending a student to one of those online charters is?
The cost for just one of our students to attend an online school is anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000 per student. So this allows for our students to more of our students to take advantage of it in the district for that same cost.
And you indicated that up to 500 licenses, which is 500 students.
That's correct.
Can do this program at a total cost of $20,138?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're doing the math at home, let's use a round figure, $14,000. If up to 500 of our kids goes to another online cyber, 500 times that number is what the cost would be. So we are making efforts to reduce tax dollars, and I thank Ms. Gold, Mr. Gigliotti, and the rest of the admin team for getting us into this program, because it will be a savings. And as you do the math, you won't believe it, but that speaks to the inequitable funding that goes on in our state, and particularly with the online cyber schools. They get the same amount of money that a school that's brick and mortar. They get the same amount of money. We're not making this up. The math is real. Thank you.
You're welcome. So that'll move us to Section 7, Personnel, 7.1.
Okay, 7.1, Section A, authorization for leave. Section B, authorization for retirement, resignation. Section D, authorization to hire non-professional staff. Section F, authorization for EDR mentor actions. Section G, authorization for miscellaneous. Section H, authorization for furlough.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Ms. Seligson. Discussion of any of these items will require executive session. Is there a need to go into executive session? Seeing none, take the vote.
I have a quick question.
I'm sorry.
Do we have to discuss the alignment today or not?
No.
Okay.
Motion carries unanimously.
Wanted to recognize two notable hires. One is our new Director of Special Ed, Ms. Pam Zackel, who I do not believe is here this evening. And the other is our new district-wide Safety Security Coordinator, Mr. Michael Petrogallo. If Mr. Petrogallo, if you want to come down and just address the board, introduce yourself.
Thank you, sir. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for putting your trust in me and in your district. I know we have a lot of work to do, and I look forward to getting started right away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment additionally?
Yeah.
I know we just furloughed a lot of people with that vote, and that hurts. And I'm just sorry that we had to do that. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Paige. We all do.
I think that's a collective emotion. So, yeah. But we can talk about that. Okay, that'll move us to technology section. There are a number of tabs in this section. We discussed last week considering these 17 items as one consent item. Is there a motion to do that?
Moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor of that? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we will vote on the technology and safety tabs as one consent item. That does not preclude us from asking questions. Sorry, is there a motion for that consent item?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Mr. Hanchett. That does not preclude discussion of any of the tabs included therein. So if anyone has questions for Mr. Muter, he is here to answer those. Any questions?
I have a question. There was, of the 17 tabs, if you can recall, there was one that, at least one that had to go out for bid. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes.
If you can recall which one it was.
That was the interactive monitors, perhaps?
Okay, that sounds right.
Would that be 814?
And there were only 2 bids received?
Yes.
When I looked at it last time, it looked like we were going with the higher bid. Was I just misreading?
No, I'm recommending that we go with the higher priced. We were looking for Promethean to begin with. The other monitors are okay.
I see.
They just have lower specifications.
Sure.
And also, our teachers have been using Promethean software for the last 10 years, and they can just continue to use the software and then grow into all the enhanced features that it has.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And your bid specs were for the Promethean, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then just someone else submitted something, but it really was technically not responsive to the request for Promethean.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions on any of the tabs?
I did have a question for 8.12, the iReady. And I might be wrong in this, but I remember us perhaps considering replacing that or having another program to replace this.
Is that a question for Mr. Claus or Dr. Pennyman?
Maybe Jim could better
Either or,
answer.
yeah, because this is more of an assessment tool, right? And I thought...
Yes, absolutely. So iReady is going to be our assessment tool next year, K through 5. And we are replacing the use of iReady and Star 360 testing and 7 through 12 band with map testing. We didn't want to change it all in 1 year. We want to make that change gradual. Okay. The overall assessment cost for the district will be reduced next year.
Okay, so for the upper levels, we already have the Star 360, right?
Yes, and that's actually what is being replaced by the map testing.
Okay. And then hopefully next year we'll just completely phase this out.
Potentially, yes. That's what we're looking at.
Okay. Still a big number.
Yes, and that actually includes both the diagnostic assessment and the computer tutoring aspects that go along with that. So it's not just a diagnostic assessment. So when we see students working on individualized instruction in mathematics and the computer, this pays for that as well. Okay. We did reduce that overall cost this year by limiting some of the features that weren't utilized.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right. Seeing none, I think our best course of action on this is to do a voice vote. If anyone wants to oppose any of the individual tabs, you can do that by number when you vote. Does that make sense? Okay.
Ms. Lawson?
Yeah.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Glassman?
Yes. That will move us to Section 10, Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
10.1.
10.1, we seek approval of PCO-20 from Pitt Electric, Inc. for the Dixon Project Electrical Services revisions per Duquesne Light Company totaling $15,002.80 from Capital Project Fund 39.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion on 10.1?
How were we able to save so much money with that? Because the original cost was what?
We don't have to move the pole. The initial design was they thought they had to move the pole, which would have been about 15, 20 feet up the road. And the premise behind that was to not have a power interruption. It was determined that we could have a power interruption for 1 week, which will be the week of July 8th at Dixon. And they'll bring an emergency generator on site for 1 week to power up the building, and they can still work, and then they'll take that week, they'll replace the pole in the exact spot. So the difference was $15,000 for some residual cost for some materials, but that was about the extent of it. We saved about $230,000 on that.
This is my ignorance, but why do we have to pay for their pole?
It's not their pole. There's a transformer platform that when it was spec'd out with the newest specs, there was some additional grounding and additional required transformer grounding, required boards and chains, installation required boards and chains, and some existing secondary conductors required changes, and that was it. That's all we needed to change. So it's on our side to get our existing conduit and everything put in place, because we have to replace the pad. They're taking care of the pole, but we have to upgrade the pad that the transformer is sitting on, and then they'll place everything in. And it has nothing to do with the pole itself. It's just because of
The connection to the pole.
connection.
Got it.
There's some additional.
Any other questions? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 10.2.
10.2, we seek ratification to authorize Keystone Electrical Systems, Inc. to make the emergency repairs to the secondary electric feed at Wilkins Elementary due to the power outage caused by the failed transformer from General Fund 10.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion?
Yes. Why isn't this an insurance-related claim?
It is an insurance company. We have to pay it. They're investigating until we get the money from the insurance company.
Oh, but so there is.
Yeah,
we will get reimbursed for this.
That's our hope. Yeah, from what I understand. Well, it's up to the insurance company. They're reviewing it. I haven't gotten word back that it's not claimed yet.
So we repaired to get the school working quickly,
Yes.
and then they maybe reimburse us.
Yes.
Okay.
And then once they reimburse us, they're actually going to go after Duquesne Light because it was their equipment that failed that caused all the problem.
Let us know.
I will.
Keep us updated on that.
Any additional questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 10.3.
10.3, we seek approval to advertise the RFP for moving services related to the building reconfiguration.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we will take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 10.4.
10.4, we seek approval of outside organizations to utilize district facilities.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Curry. Any questions or discussion on the outside use? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 10.5.
10.5, we seek approval to have the Student Conservation Association, Inc. and Woodland Hills School District to engage in an SCA Community Crew, Conservation Crew, for the following project to be performed at the Wilkins Primary School.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That will move us to Section 13, School Finance, 13.1.
13.1, we seek ratification of the bill list for invoices paid after May 15, 2019 legislative meeting.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion on the ratification list? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 13.2.
13.2, we seek approval of the June 2019 bill list.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion on the bill list? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 13.3.
We seek 13.3, we seek approval of the investment report for May 2019.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Curry, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions on the investment report? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 13.4.
13.4, we seek the acceptance of the May 2019 fund financial reports and student activity reports for informational purposes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions on the activity reports? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 13.5.
13.5, we seek approval of the Homestead Farmstead Resolution number 543-19.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 13.6.
13.6, we seek approval of the 2019-2020 final general fund budget resolutions 544-19 and 545-19.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Mr. Hanchett. Questions and discussion on the budget?
Yeah, I'll go first. This is more of a comment. I just want to calmly explain what I was trying to say last week in regards to, I guess, the millage increase. I understand, we had this great, picture of, average home, $86,000. It's only $65 for the year, $5 for the month. Just, don't have an extra cup of coffee for the month. But, I get that. But when people are looking to buy a home or even upgrade, they're considering more than just their tax increase, their school district tax millage. They're considering their town and the county. And that's the factor when you're on a budget. That's what you're looking at, not just, it's only an extra $65. So for me, for example, I downsized already. This is already a sacrifice for me to live in an $85,000 house because I want to be here. I grew up here. My children go to school here. You know, I have all these wonderful memories. I want to continue on and be a part of the community. But for me to actually move up and buy a house that's appropriate for my family, I'm not going to be able to afford it here. If I just move up to a home that's $100,000, $150,000, my taxes now go from $3,000 a year to $5,000. I'm really lucky and save hard to a $200,000 home. That's $7,000 a year for an extra bedroom. You know, when I can move to the next county over and get twice the amount of acreage, 5 bedrooms, spinach bay, anything, and I think we really need to think about our options other than asking, you know, me to open my purse and sacrifice my extra cup of coffee every year. You know, I don't feel like we've really pursued enough creative options for revenue other than our tax body. You know, asking our taxpayers to you know, sacrifice their coffee. When, again, I'm sure many families are in my situation where this is already a sacrifice. You know, I actually did some homework myself, and I saw the past 2 years, Senator Acosta has given Penn Hills $2 million worth of grant money. And I actually called and I left a message to see, you know, could that be an option for us? We're right there behind them. They're in a worse state than we are, but we literally have no money. So what is the plan for next year? You're just going to come back and ask us again for another millage increase? I could support this, and I get, you know, it's only, you know, on average a $65 increase for the year. But then, you know, where does that leave us? That money's gone already. So, and the assets we have so many properties on the book, and we knew about those properties for at least a year. And again, until recently, there was no effort put forth to stick a sign in a yard. We don't even need a realtor for that. You know, just try, show us an effort. I also asked about, have we considered making advertisements on the website? We have plenty of small businesses around that would love to advertise. You know, it's not a whole lot of money, but it's something that's coming in. You can't just keep asking us to open our wallets because, you know, you don't feel like being creative or asking for help, looking for grants. So I'm sorry, I don't agree with this. And we're going to lose a lot.
Other comments, discussion?
Yeah, I have something to say. Since I've been on the board for about 2.5 years, I've consistently asked for some type of plan of how we move forward with our tax structure. And we haven't really done anything with the delinquent taxes within the district. All we do is just hold on and wish and hope somebody pays the back taxes. When there are investors that I know of who are willing to come in and redevelop the community. But unfortunately, you're dealing with the borough, you're dealing with the school district, you're dealing with the county. And it makes it a lot of red tape to even start that process. And then this year we asked, you know, so I never saw a plan going forward. The other side is, this year we consistently asked for a budget with good numbers. And every budget meeting I was at this year, the numbers have changed. The labels have changed. And that alone I don't have any confidence that the current numbers that I'm working with is true. This is like the first time, I think, in 2.5 years that I sat up here and I listened to everybody there. And I agree with every one of them. Every one of them. That, one, we definitely can't tax our way out of our situation. We have to start working with the boroughs and working with the people who want to come in and do things to help offset some of the tax increases. You just can't. It doesn't make sense for us to continue sitting on it. And I still haven't heard what the plan is for next year. What's the plan for the year after that? Are we going to do tax increase after tax increase? You know, my region, they're older. Most of them, they're not longer working. They're retired, fixed income. You know, they're battling medication issues. You know, so it's kind of disingenuous to say I follow a cup of coffee when somebody needs their blood pressure medication. that they may no longer be able to afford. I can't vote for it either.
Mr. Gigliotti, can you hear me?
Yes.
How much of the $100 million do we actually have control spending?
Probably a couple million of it.
Now that doesn't include charter expenditures. The point being, there's a lot of obligations we have that you might not see in this total dollar budget. Now, before I get there, I want to apologize to Mrs. Bisdee for the unreturned phone calls, the lack of attention. That stuff drives me crazy. If you ever encounter that again, please email me directly, because Mr. Harris is trying to instill a customer service attitude in all of our buildings, because that's what we need to do. We get that. We got to win charter families back. So anyhow, on the $100 million, $20 million goes to charter schools. That's a fifth. $20 million goes to special education. There's nobody in this room that would want to help another family that has a special needs child. At least that's the way I feel. And that costs. Ms. Aquilene, you made an excellent point. Enrollment's gone down, costs are going up. Special education is a major driver behind that. We are trying to identify students more accurately, get cost of service to the point where we're getting the most out of it. Following up on the point of charter schools, quick history lesson, I gave this in February. In the 1960s and the early 70s, there were over 2,000 school districts in Pennsylvania. Harrisburg consolidated that down to 501. The reason being, you get more bang for the dollar when you do that. People love choice, but choice comes with a cost. We bus 6,000 kids to 90 different locations for $7 million. Not very efficient. We're taking steps, working with outside groups to try to be more efficient with that. But the point being, when you have more charter schools, you're losing the efficiency of the expenditure of the dollar. Period. Period. It's not hard math. It's basic economics 101. When we are educating a greater population of special education students and charter schools are not, the burden then is on us, and we will take on that burden. We have a staff here that can do that. I toured a charter school a few years ago, and I asked, what's your percentage of special ed kids? The quote was, verbatim, between 10 and 11%, a little higher than we want it to be. What does that tell you? Schools get a fixed amount of money when one of our kids goes to their school, $44,000, regardless of cost of service. We pay true cost of service. So hence, we have a fifth of our budget there. We're willing to compete with these other schools. But what would help is if we had people in the community, I'm not going to say poor-mouthing Woodland Hills, but at least supporting us. As I sit here, I can think of families that all my kids were in school with, and they believed in this district. They didn't go anywhere. They were here, and I could fill the room with people who went above and beyond to do what they could for this district. So here we are. We have two options. We can cut staff, which we've done, and we're raising the taxes to the index. Our two choices. Why is that? Pennsylvania is the worst state in the United States, the worst, in funding our districts equitably. The affluent districts spend 33% more per student than we do. Somebody, one of the speakers mentioned Jay Costa. I'm a personal friend, and I'll defend Jay. I don't know why you didn't get a return call, but he's in the minority trying to fight this. In Harrisburg, we need more people who are going to work on funding that's going to be equitable across the board. That's where it starts, and we're left with this, neighbor against neighbor. We don't want to be at odds with anybody, but this is what we're left with. We're looking at everything. Mr. Harris came in with a business acumen, and he's already found last fall 2 things. Hey, let's do this and let's do that. I applauded him. We all did. As far as getting the numbers just right, I'll go back to my original point. How much do we actually have control of? The pension liability in Harrisburg is between $63 and $73 billion. A few years ago, the state legislature said each and every one of the 500 school districts will pay a percentage of their payroll to help close that gap. This current fiscal year, we wrote a check for $9.6 million, 32.5% of our payroll. Next year, it goes up to 33 and change. The year after that, more. The year after that, more. It'll plateau, and then after a period of time, start to come down. That's what's in front of us. And Harrisburg doesn't care. They're not trying to fund fairly the money's going out to the 500 districts. They passed a fair funding formula 2 or 3 years ago. It only applies to new monies added to the budget. Education budget's about $3 billion. Governor Wolf's asking for another $200 million this year. That passes. That amount will get applied to the fair funding formula. 5 or 6% of total expenditures. That doesn't help us. There have been studies done. If the entire amount of money went through this formula, we would get thousands of dollars per student more. But it's not happening because that formula only applies to additional monies. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. I hope I've educated you somewhat as to what goes on behind. The pressures are real. They're adverse. We don't want to raise taxes. We certainly don't want to cut teaching positions. Some of the folks are personal friends of mine. It's the worst. But anyhow, as we sit here, if this budget is not tabled, I will vote to support it. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being here.
Apologies, there's no opportunity for questions at this time, but there will be public comment after the agenda is complete. Any other comments from the board? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Am I the only one you're waiting on?
Yeah.
It hasn't come up yet.
Oh, it hasn't?
No. Just want to tell me what it is? I'm refreshing the page. I lost the internet.
Just want to give me your answer?
Let me guess.
Did you say yes?
Motion carries 5-3. Okay, that moves us to 13.7.
Okay, 13.7, we seek approval of the workers' compensation insurance with CM Region Insurance Company, PSBA premium amount of $352,959 for the 2019-2020 fiscal year from General Fund 10.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 13.8.
13.8, we seek approval of the district's insurance package for the 2019-2020 fiscal year from CM Region Insurance Company, PSBA. Total package of cost of $321,398 from the General Fund 10.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 13.9.
13.9, we seek approval of the volunteer coverage insurance policy for the 2019-2020 school year at a premium cost of $950 and payment from the General Fund 10.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to 13.10.
13.10, we seek authorization for participation in the Forbes Road CTC 2019-2020 revenue anticipation note totaling $4.4 million.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. That moves us to Section 14, Superintendent, 14.1.
14.1, we seek approval to enter into agreement with the consortium's Future Ready Alliance for the 2019-2020 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. It moves us to 14.2.
14.2, we seek permission to change the name of the Woodland Hills Gay Straight Alliance to Gender Sexualities Alliance.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Mrs. Curry. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll take the vote.
Might be a little late, but I'm just curious as to who requested the name change. Was the people in the organization?
There's an attachment there that has the request from the students.
Part of the national organization changed its name,
Oh, okay.
which I learned only in the attachment.
So,
That's fine.
yeah. That motion carried unanimously. Moves us to 14.3.
14.3, we seek approval of the MOU with WIA for the Woodland Hills School District Early Retirement Incentive.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Strasbach, second by Mr. Hanchett. I have not seen the MOU as yet. Is there a motion to table?
Yes.
Move. Sorry?
Motion to table.
Moved by Ms. Seligson. Motion to table by Ms. Seligson, seconded by Ms. Strasbach. We'll take a vote on that as well.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Strasbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Glasser? Ms. Glasser?
Yes. Okay, motion's tabled. That moves us to old business. Is there any old business? Seeing none. New business. We have a new business item, 16.1.
16.1, we seek to rescind the May 29 agenda item 9.1, action and award the Wilkins Elementary AC work to Legalia Mechanical, Inc., estimated price of $19,894, and time and material not to exceed $20,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund 32.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hanchett, second by Ms. Strasbach. Could we have an explanation of this, Mr. Finney?
Yes, it was brought to my attention that when I got back from vacation that I forgot to add the other 2 quotes to the board members. So to be consistent, we wanted to make sure we had 3 quotes and to show that Legalia will have the lowest bid for the work.
Any questions?
I do. Is this repair due to, I guess, the issue before, because it's not really an AC unit there, it's a dehumidifier, and the windows being opened because that was, no, so what is this for then?
This is for Wilkins. It's an AC unit on the roof that has to be repaired. We have to do a pressure check on the lines to find out where the leaks are. And that's probably a little over $5,000 just itself, and then making the necessary repairs for it, for the cafeteria itself. And that's only 1 unit. There's 2 units on that roof that are not working, so right now we're just trying to get one of those units up and working. To get the second one up and running, it's going to be a lot more.
No, so this is specifically just to the lunchroom area because we.
Correct.
Okay, but the rest of the building still has working.
We're totally fine with the rest of the building.
Okay. When we make that renovation, though, why wouldn't that the units we installed cover? Why was the
cafeteria wasn't part of that renovation, I guess. That was prior to me being here. So we had the HVAC unit strictly just for that cafeteria.
My recollection on that is that there was already AC in the cafeteria. The DOAS system that we installed in the rest of the building was separate.
Correct.
Because there was already AC in the
lunchroom.
In the cafetorium.
So the units that is currently on a roof, like most of our buildings, they're over 20 years old.
I guess really my question would be, because I didn't know that, but you would think with updates and savings that the new system we could have upgraded to along with the new system to save money instead of, because that was the whole point of that, to add it in. So would it make more sense to move, instead of a giant AC unit on top, to move to what we've installed, the eco-friendly?
I don't think at this time it would be very costly for us to do that at this time.
It would be, sorry, would it not be cost effective, or it would not be cost?
It would cost us a lot more money to try to revamp that now.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, take the vote. Motion carries unanimously. Reminder that we have our committee meetings next Wednesday. We will have all the meetings on that night because of the Kennywood Picnic holiday on the 25th. So that's Wednesday, 5 o'clock here in the administration building. Unless someone has anything they particularly want to focus on from the committee reports, I will ask the board's indulgence to skip the reading of those this month.
The only thing I have to say is, it was a really nice time I had at the athletic awards, also the academic awards. It's nice to recognize all the students, and it's also nice to see a lot of the same students who are also there for the academic awards, who are there for the athletic awards too. So, knowing it's very difficult to be an athlete, and as well as have good grades too, it's nice to see that being done on both sides.
Thank you for that. They were very nice affairs indeed. Particularly, it's always good to be at the academic awards and see the students and hear where they're going to school next year as well. In addition, Mr. Harris reminds me that we also have a public meeting on the 25th, which will be the hearing for a charter application that we have received. So that will be posted as well. So that will be at 6 p.m. here in this room as well. Okay, anything else on committees? Okay. Seeing none, that moves us to public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board at this time? Please step forward. Reminder that you have 2 minutes to address the board. Welcome and invite the public comment. Please give your name and address, and questions will be addressed after the meeting has adjourned.
Tracy Boobin, Wilkins Avenue, Chalfont. Like I've said many times before last year, before I just totally gave up on the district, how many of you know why my son asked to come out of the district? None of you, because none of you never asked. I've told you to ask. I've begged you to ask. So what happens? I pull him. I have nothing good to say, okay, because nobody cared about why my son asked to be pulled out of your school. And then the next year, that teacher was suspended. So maybe you could have, asked what was wrong, and you could have saved yourself from suspending somebody. That's why you deserved to pay for my son to go to cyber school. And my experience with cyber school, I had more contact with those teachers than I ever had with the district. I had more contact with his guidance counselor than I ever had with the district, and that's with having 3 children through this district. Why don't you ask why people left and then try and rectify those things? Why don't you make the hard cuts with sports? Maybe make them buy their own sports equipment like other districts have done to make up that big lag. No, but we're going to have a state-of-the-art scoreboard, but you have people whose kids had to buy their own books for AP classes and honors classes. But we're going to have a state-of-the-art scoreboard. That's really nice. I'm done. I'm out of this district. You guys lost a sale of a $350,000 house because that's what I plan on buying in another district. And I will sell to people that don't work so that none of their money goes to this district because you guys don't deserve it. You don't know. Okay? You have to listen to people. The first time I met Superintendent Harris, I had to pry it out of him who he was. I just thought he was a creep watching a soccer game because he wouldn't tell anybody who he was. So that was the first experience I had with you. People were asking you who you were. You wouldn't even tell them. Until I wouldn't leave because I wanted to make sure that you weren't some creep just watching kids play soccer. Why didn't you introduce yourself to all of us and let it be known? So that after you left, we all sat there and goes, that's really weird. He wouldn't even introduce himself. So that was the first impression that a lot of us had. That's not right. You guys got to come out more and find out what the problems are. Because I was a big supporter. I've lived in this community since the day I was born. And I went to Churchill. And I was the last graduating class from Churchill. And the first one to go through and whenever the merger started, because it took 3 years to go fully through. I've watched the steady decline. There was a few years we were on an upswing. But lately it's all downhill. You guys got to look inside yourselves because you're pushing everybody out that holds up this district.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Field. I live in Churchill on Hampstead Drive. You know the ads, you've probably seen them on TV for companies like Fidelity Investments, when they want you to invest with them. And they always say something, they say past performance is not necessarily a predictor of future results because they're usually telling you how great you're going to do, but they're forced to say it may not be so good in the future. Let me ask you, are you happy with your past results, your past performance? Are you happy with the return on investment that you're getting for us? I really want to know that. I'd love to know how you characterize it. Because first of all, your job is to be honest, to maintain your credibility. Along those lines, I don't know if you know the children's story. Might be Hans Christian Andersen, about the little boy who has to put his finger in the dike because all the water's going to leak through, and the poor boy's sitting there. Is that what's going on? Is that our situation? That really all you're doing is at best treading water on our behalf? Are you just trying to prevent calamity? You owe it to us to tell us that's what the future looks like. We see the signs. So I ask you, the first thing is your fiduciary responsibility is to measure and project. What do we expect? I don't hear, this is my first meeting here, I just don't hear that at all. And you have to look in the mirror. You have great intentions, but if you don't show us what's coming down the road, you're not doing your fiduciary best for us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I have three things to say I didn't say before. Please give your name and address again. That was one of them. My name is Marion Penn. I live at 1203 Macon Avenue in the Swissville part of Regent Square. So that was number one. Number two, I'm not sure if our people even here know that there was an $85 million bond taken out, maybe when some of you weren't even here. So that decision that was made back, I assume, in 2016 was also the time when our taxes were increased 11.64%. So if there was no thought about taking about $85 million bond at that time and what would happen in the future based on 11.5% increase, 11.64 increase, this is where the projection comes in. How can you do that? This is why you're in the position you're in. You're going to spend $8.6 million this year for the bond alone. What's left? How much is left? I don't know that. If it's on your website, I can't find it. How many years is it going to take to pay off that bond? $85 million. And I spoke with Jamie about this, and the state doesn't require much of anything to give you that money. That's a heck of a thing. That's how Penn Hills got stuck in the situation there. The state just gives money away like it's candy. They don't look at what tax base you have. They don't look at that. We don't get to vote on it. So you guys can just go there year after year and say, hey, we need more money, and they'll give it to you. How you pay for it's like a big question mark. Okay, and the last question I have is, who is overseeing the current construction project, and where can we go to see the status of that project? There's a construction project at Dixon, and there's a construction project at the high school. $59 million for a high school infrastructure project is phenomenal. You would think that $59 million would buy you a new school, not an infrastructure upgrade. So anyway, I'd like to know that answer. If somebody could get back to me on that, I'd appreciate it. Jamie has my information. Indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to address the board? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all.